I was talking to a guy that said, I'm waiting for God's plan for my life, like it's on a pirate map or something.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in to Becoming Something, where we promise to keep the conversation honest and real for young adults in their 20s and 30s. Every moment we live is training for a future moment, and that's why we do this podcast, because we want you to be prepared for everything that life is going to throw at you. Our hope with this podcast is that it would help you become all that God desires you to be. So with that in mind, let's jump right in to this week's episode of Becoming Something.
What's up, podcast world? It's your boy JP in the podcast studio with my main guy, the number one partner in crime, the one and only Nathaniel Hilgenkamp.
Wow,
I am going to tear up.
Nate,
It's because you got cool shoes.
Wow.
You
It's
have
because
made
you got
it.
shoes. That female voice in the room is not our beloved Kathy Davidson.
I
I've gotta
always feel like when he
stand in.
intros me, it's like a shut down.
It's just a bummer. We're
It's
just so
like a,
bummed.
I'm so
People
sorry,
the
guys.
people are discouraged. And
No,
so I'm
I
just
get
like,
it.
Hey, Bree, Gabrielle
man.
Odom.
It's McCullough
That's
now.
not our last name.
Gabrielle McCullough.
Gosh,
She has
he literally did my wedding.
She has been married, and shout out Cooper. I love you. I love you. I'm so
man.
glad.
Gosh, that is
Yeah,
hilarious.
here's
I
the
just
thing.
out of respect and honor for your family,
Yeah,
who
yeah.
I care so much about.
You just went
Totally.
on and on and on about how awesome I am. I'm your number one partner in crime.
Yeah.
You hang out with her husband 3 million times
Oh
more
my
than me.
gosh.
It's like hurtful,
But
man.
No,
he
it's because I
wants
like I like him more.
I know. There's all these guys you spend time with, and I'm like,
He's
Hey,
a stud, man.
over here, man. Yeah, you like my shoes?
I do like him.
I was
said,
really
you like
impressed.
I said Cooper's a stud. He's like, hey, back to my shoes though.
Literally, he's like, change the subject.
Anyway, come on. I look cool.
Back
speaking
to
of
partner in crime.
speaking of shoes, you were like came in here singing a song.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What is it?
Okay. Here's
No
the
one
deal.
knows this
no,
song,
No.
Nobody.
Guys,
I want you to
guys.
leave in the comment
Oh.
section if you ever have heard of this song before in your life.
I just-
because nobody has.
No.
No,
Nobody
guys,
has.
I cannot emphasize enough how
I
big of a
think
loss
you
you
made
guys are going to take.
made it up.
This will be shocking to them that y'all.
What is the song? Tell them.
Should I sing it?
Sure.
Absolutely.
I said I wanna buy these shoes for my mama, please. And I found these shoes and they are just her size.
I just
What in
love
the world song is that?
faces you
Guys,
make.
it's called Christmas shoes.
There
it's
is
like
that is
it's
not a
no
song.
one has heard of that.
That is not a
guys,
song.
It's one of the most
I'm gonna
popular
buy these
Christmas songs of all
shoes
time, and it's so
for my
sad
mama.
but really touching. His mom has cancer, is about to die. He buys these shoes, but he doesn't have the money.
You are not
the
gonna
guy
pull me
behind
off
him.
sides.
You kill
I'm
me.
not-
I feel like you
I'm
guys are
not
pulling
buying
a
it.
prank
you
on me.
are-
I'm not
making
buying
this
into your
up.
fake made up shoe story
Like,
about
so you're being
songs.
serious.
We are being serious.
I've never heard that song before
Also,
in my life.
You
will
are
tell
like
you-
putting it on par with Jingle Bells. Like,
Yeah,
Yes,
you're
it
acting
is.
like
It
it's
is.
Frosty the
Like,
Snowman or
Like,
something.
It is in a
No,
different way.
dude, it's
it's
not.
like the sad version of Jingle Bells,
Oh my
but
God.
also
Yeah, the
meaningful.
sad version of Jingle
That
Bells
no
that
one
no
heard
one's
of.
ever heard.
Text our staff right now. Like,
You're ridiculous.
I
There
promise
was,
you
We'll
there
guys
run
was
a
will be the
already
only
people
ones.
in this room,
We're
and
gonna run
only
a poll.
one person knew
We'll
it.
run a poll on Instagram.
If you've
and
heard
see.
of Christmas shoes, it's going to be 95% to 5.
Yeah, I'm
I
I'm
can't wait
sure
to
it
watch
is.
you lose.
All right, if it's not 95% to 5, okay.
Give him
so
another
let's
consequence.
let's say that most of my followers have not heard that song.
Oh, easy.
Easy,
I will.
easy money.
I've
Oh
never
my
been so.
God.
You have to
confident.
donate
keeps
$10,000 to a
down.
charity.
Nate doesn't
to
have
charity of our choosing.
$10,000.
All right, what
I
do
don't
you have to
trust
do?
Your,
you
your
have
charities would be like,
you have to swim. You have to swim the baptistry.
oh, easy for sure.
Okay.
If less than 50% say they have never heard of the song Christmas Shoes,
Yeah. If less than 50% have never heard
I
the
will-
song Christmas Shoes,
yes,
you have to
yes.
swim the baptistry.
I mean,
Easy.
you are swimming the baptistry.
No, guys, you are going to be.
I
you are
love
going to
that
be
you just signed up for
shocked.
that.
Yeah.
That's
What-
amazing.
So what do you have to do?
You say it. What do I have to do?
Well, oh, also here's, I might actually just need to be baptized.
Oh my
I
gosh.
don't know if we've
because
had this conversation.
wait, JP, I don't think you know this.
No, I do. He didn't go under.
Okay, yeah.
I've heard this story.
Yeah, Nate didn't go fully
Nate got
under.
baptized and kept his head out of water.
No, it wasn't me. It
which
was
everyone
I got,
knows that doesn't count.
I got pulled
Nate
up too
didn't want to
fast.
fully
I know.
submit.
I'm like, I'm gonna be walking around in heaven headless.
Oh
So
man. Oh man.
yeah. Wait. If you lose,
If I lose, I have to baptize you.
Oh my gosh. That is so.
Which, man, let's be honest, I don't want that on my resume, but okay.
if you lose, you have to write the foreword
Just
to my
kidding.
next book.
I'm joking about that. Yeah, done.
Okay, great.
I'd done. I would be glad
What's
to
your
write
next book?
the next forward.
How to be cool.
Hey,
Oh my god.
do you remember when we did?
Oh my gosh.
I've got a
I know
surprise for
what
you
you're gonna
today. I got a surprise for you. You remember because you've always wanted this. We've got some reconciling to do.
Actually,
do you
one of the
remember
worst.
quarantine cold calls?
say.
You remember this?
Yes.
Do you know what I'm going to say?
Yeah.
We called lots of people, man. We who we called Matt Chandler.
Man, I was nervous for that
We
one.
called Shane and Shane.
Wait, I
Jenny
found out
Allen.
Matt Chandler's like your favorite person.
Yeah,
Man,
That's
I
what
know,
your
Matt,
wife
we
told
can't
me.
say that like.
yeah.
Everyone's gonna hear
James
that
too.
now.
James too says nobody's favorite.
Yeah. I think
So-
it's cool.
We called some folks, and we called one person that was we thought was going to be easy breezy,
I love this story.
and he was not having it. And so we've got to go round 2 on that. And he is like the most amazing human being.
Totally.
And so I know Matt Chandler's might be high on your list, but this guy's really high on my list. So can we welcome Bob Goff? Thank you so much for jumping in on the podcast with us.
You bet. Glad to be with you guys.
I want to say Bob, but that feels weird to say. And so I'm like,
No,
I'm
Mr.
sure
Goff,
to everybody.
Bob Goff.
Bob, hey you.
Are you at home right now? Or are you traveling?
Yeah. No, I'm just back from somewhere, as everybody is.
I love it.
I think I forget where it was. Oh, I did a bus tour to 12 states or 13 states, and then just got back to that. And then we're headed to Israel here
Wow.
in a couple days, and then to Ukraine after that. And so we're just, it's like being in the witness protection program, and
Yeah.
I didn't do anything wrong.
I love it.
That's
and then,
amazing.
And then on May 16th, you'll be in the great metropolis of Waco, Texas.
Yes,
School of
really
Whimsy.
looking forward to that. Yeah,
Cool.
School of Whimsy. We did that a couple years ago, and it was just so fun.
Yeah.
So we're going to do it again. I just love when people get together and they have just some big ambitions, and they aren't always about themselves. Sometimes a big ambition. As a matter of fact, a woman came to Waco, and she had wanted to help somebody else out. And she came and she said, I'm not sure if I'll be able to be released from the hospital. I'm like, oh heavens, like what's going on? And get this, she had found out about another woman that needed, I think it was a kidney or a liver or whatever it is that you can cut half of it off and it'll grow back.
Wow.
And she gave hers to
Wow.
this woman she'd never met before.
Yeah.
She just wanted to help people out. And I had met her years before. They had called from their, they were just about to walk down the aisle for their wedding.
Yeah.
And we just stayed in contact.
That's
and
incredible.
isn't that beautiful? So
I-
I just love people are thinking about how do I move the needle in somebody else's life.
I love that. A quick disclaimer for the listeners: before you cut off half your kidney or your liver, you do want to confirm which one does grow back. So just
Yes.
don't take our word for it. I did a podcast this morning at 8 a.m. and they asked me, "Hey, what if what's your go-to author?" Was the kind of the concluding of the one of the last questions they asked on the podcast. And so I just want to encourage you. I said Bob Goff, man, and
Man, honored.
and it's I feel like I have to in preparing sermons and whatnot. I spend so much time in the textbooks and reading heady things that I love your ability to share stories, and more than that, I love books about people just walking in faithfulness, just like living the life of a Christian that is, it's just kind of crazy because you see every geography and space that I occupy as an opportunity to love those around me.
Yeah.
And so like if for our listeners, like how would you, if you were going to teach that to somebody, just like, hey, this is what this just like lose your life for the sake of others, like love God and love people. Like anything come to mind on that?
Yeah, I was just immediately thinking when you said that about Matthew 13, it just said that Jesus never spoke to anybody without telling them a story or two.
Yeah.
And so like that idea to get your head on a swivel.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people. I was talking to a guy that said, I'm waiting for God's plan for my life, like it's on a pirate map or something.
Yeah.
And it's Matthew 25. It's hungry people, thirsty people, sick people, strange people, naked people, and people in jail. Widows and orphans, if you want to go full James. But like just say, whether you count 6 or 8 things, then just get your head into that, your head on a swivel and see people. Ask the guy that's, the FedEx guy and this and that. Take a genuine interest in people around you.
Yeah.
And then you'll do it. Don't do it because you want to write a book.
Yeah.
But if you ever wanted to take note of what was going on around you, then you'll see all kinds of hope. Like you're going to find whatever it is that you're spending the most time doing. And if you say, I want to develop some character and round off the edges of some of the difficult parts, for me, I'm super impatient. How about you guys? Like,
I'm not the most patient person ever. No.
Yeah, I make coffee nervous. I'm so like, I like said, get well now cards. So I bought a 71 Volkswagen and it's just beat. This car has not seen 42 miles an hour. It just does not have it in it. Downhill with a stiff wind. And it's been the best thing ever because I just go slow now. I didn't have fast in it. And so you can be coming up with some kind of hacks to deal with some of your insecurities or some of your characteristics that you feel like you're asking God to work on, then actively kind of co-author that. Just say, buy a really slow thrashed car.
Yeah, and I know this is a practice of yours of just trying to think through, okay, what are the challenges in my life? And then what adjustments do I need to make so that I can, because you've done this before with a Sector 9 longboard, I think, right? Where it was like you sold a car and got a skateboard, right?
Bingo.
That's the kind of thing. It's like, all right, I'm just going to skateboard everywhere I go because it slows me down a little bit.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So come up with your, and during this time that we're all kind of recovering from where life got weird for a couple of years, we've got a lodge up in Canada that we built and it burned down, that we built again. So I'm assuming it's out on fire as we speak, but even money.
Yeah.
So when we leave, we have a freezer. And it's got, old pizzas and stuff in there. And then we'll come back. I don't know if we're coming back in a day or a week or a month or longer. But with the last thing we do, we take a glass of water that's frozen. We put a penny on the top and we leave. And when we come back, if the glass is frozen, the penny's on the bottom, you know what happened while you were gone.
Yeah.
So what a great thing to think about what happened while you were gone.
Yeah.
Like whether you checked out because there's some relational headwinds you faced, you checked out because there were some creepers in your life. You checked out because just like what happened while you were gone? If the penny's at the bottom, what does that mean? And I think there's just something beautiful about people that take note. And it's not so you can write a sermon. You're taking note so you can grow in your faith, grow in your relationships. Yeah.
Man, that lodge has become this like mysterious kingdom of another world to me in my mind. I just got to tell you, even as you mentioned it there, because I knew that and I knew you'd built it and knew it burned down and you're rebuilding. But then Donald Miller talks about it too. And going by there and you talk about throwing the saltwater taffies at the kayakers when they come by. And he talks about stopping by and I I'm sure it's different in reality than it is in my mind, but the two things I remember that he mentioned were like the bioluminescent plankton, I think, in the water.
Yeah, that's it.
And then orcas swimming beside them. And I'm like, what fairy tale land? Like Bob has pet unicorns in the pins and stuff. Like, what is going on here?
Oh, and there's these Dungeness crabs up there. They're the size of manhole covers.
No
And I
way.
I'm just like peanut butter and jelly sandwich and crabs.
Oh my
Like I
goodness.
just love those things. And you just drop the net, they jump in.
Man.
So it's mostly about the butter. I'll be real.
That is amazing.
But there's something about finding a place, and it could be a Starbucks. You don't have to find a place far away, but to make a safe place where people can come
Yeah.
and just deal with their stuff. So we invite good guys, bad guys, and undecided.
Yeah.
And I get to decide who's going to be roommates with whom.
Yeah. Yeah. Your other safe place is Tom Sawyer's Island. Is that right?
Yeah, that would be most Wednesdays. I teach a class up at Pepperdine Law School. Then I would just stop at Tom Sawyer Island on the way and stretch my legs. But gosh, the last time I was there, I think there were 40 people waiting for me.
Yeah.
Which is just
Wow.
great. People just know 10 to 2 on Wednesdays.
Yeah. How does that reconcile with being impatient? Because you're a guy, and I've heard many people ask you this question, but you're a guy that has given the world your phone number. I know firsthand, I've called you twice, how interruptible you are. In that. And so how does that fit with being impatient? Because that just sounds like the worst idea ever, even as a pastor, someone who's compensated to love the sheep and care for them. And I just think, man, how do I mean, I even personally struggle with this of being interruptible and loving people, but also like loving those in front of me and not getting worn out or burnt. Burnout is such a buzzword today. I feel like I just see pastors and not just pastors, people in corporate America and teachers and everywhere just getting so exhausted. So how do you work that out?
It's a great way. We had something came up along the way. I'm not sure who did it, but we came up with the idea of green rooms and all this other stuff. And we got people hiding out eating Pop-Tarts instead of just being with people.
Yeah.
And so I'm not against that. The history of the green room, it used to be where they put the potted plants.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that'll preach. So what I want to do is just this idea of availability to people. I want our workplace, I want our churches to look like the DMV. And if they don't look like the DMV, then I would say the cross section is not representative of. And so I'm not saying that with militants, but this is my way to be the DMV. That I get phone calls from people with every different faith expression or experience or all the above or none of the above. And it's just been great. I've learned a lot. So I'm not doing it to be a nice guy. I'm doing it because I've got a lot to learn. And the only thing that's kind of weird, there was a guy that called just the other day and he said, hey, listen, I don't want to talk to you. I'm just doing this out of obedience. I'm like, dude, why did you call me? That's just weird. So I'm saying, hey, listen, I don't want to like call you names or anything, but that just go talk to a friend of yours and ask them if that's a weird thing to say to somebody. But just be on your way. In the Benedictine tradition, they had a job that was called a porter, and the porter would go to the gate every day and greet people and say, how can I help you on your way? And so I think that idea of just being a porter, and people will call where they're reading a loved one a book by their bedside, and these are among their last days. You'll get the people that are doing the first look before they get married, and their courtship was around a book. So I'm keen on writing books because it's a great legacy tool. So I don't know if the three of you have written a bunch of them, but you ought to. Have you guys written a lot of books?
He has.
This one has.
Yeah.
Come on,
has.
keep
I'm
writing.
just kind of here.
Here's so we do this podcast, and typically our co-host is Kathy, and she just had her fourth child, so I asked Bree to jump in with us. Bree's an amazing minister of the gospel, and then Nate is teaching pastor here at Harris Creek, and we've been doing this Becoming Something podcast for 4 years, and so books are a great tool, and as I said, I've benefited tremendously from yours, and I don't I don't want to just there's no flattery here. I want our listeners to hear this, because I think as you read those books, it's like, hey, Bob is really kind, and he's just a joy and all of this, but there's also a firmness to you that I've seen as well, and and I would liken it to like the character of Jesus. And I'm not trying to put you on the pedestal that Jesus is on at all, but I think there's a meekness that makes a Christian, whereas there's a humility, a servant's heart, where you look around and you say, okay, who does Jesus want me to serve here? But there's also this firm, like, hey, I won't, I'm not going to enable people. I'm not going to be taken advantage of, and I'm going to speak the truth where appropriate. If somebody calls you and they're like, hey, I'm just doing this out of obedience, that there's a firmness and a realness to say, hey, that's silly. Go talk to a friend, man. Don't just call me out of obedience. I've called you twice, and I've experienced both of those spectrums. And so the first time I was with a friend, and he just lost his mom. And I was sitting there, my closest friend, and his mom unexpectedly died out of nowhere. And we were just at such a loss. And I was just sitting with him. I was like, buddy, I'm just going to sit here with you. And I'm just like, I want you to know I'm looking for opportunities to love you. We can go eat your favorite meal. We can cry together. We can go laugh. We can do anything you want. I said, is there anything, I'll look for ways on my own, but is there anything you want to do that I might miss? And he goes, I want to call Bob Goff. And I was like, great, man, we'll do it. And so we called, and you answered, and I just said, Bob, I'm sitting here, I'm with a friend, he just lost his mom, and you didn't miss a beat, bro. You said, it's like you're caving, you're spelunking, you go down, and there's all of these things around you, but you can't see them. And he goes, and everybody's tempted to just move on really fast. He goes, I'd encourage you to turn a light on and look around and just take time to see all the things and experience all the feels right now. And it was such an appropriate word in that moment. And I want to thank you for that. And then the second time I called, we were on the Becoming Something podcast, and we were calling people in the midst of quarantine, and we did something called quarantine cold calls. And I was like, let's call Bob Goff. And I called you, and I just said, hey, you're on the Becoming Something podcast. And you just stopped me right there, and you said, hey, thank you for calling, but there's appropriate channels to go through to do this sort of thing. And I said, hey, that's very fair. I appreciate that.
That's amazing.
And so I've experienced both ends of those spectrums, man, and I'm just grateful for that.
What if people knew us, like to say this idea that you're known for your opinions, but you're remembered for your love?
Yeah.
And so if you kind of think of your life as this triangle, you could say with the pointy end up for people listening. So the lower right-hand corner would be like the things that you do for a living. It's your day job. It's honorable to bag groceries, to pick vegetables, to be a plumber, to be a physician, whatever it is. These are the things you know how to do in the marketplace. And at the top of that pinnacle is the life that you want to lead. So sorry, I've got a frog in my throat.
You're fine.
In the bottom corner, the other corner, the last one, is what you want to be remembered for. And so what I'm doing is spending less time with my capabilities and more time saying, what do I want to leave behind? So I'll be 65 next year. And so what I want to do is just kind of act my age, where I am in the arc of things. And I'll continue to be available, but probably more to my grandkids. So I don't speak at large gatherings anymore. It's not that they're bad. It's just that's for somebody else. I'd rather have four of us have a meaningful conversation than have a conversation with a large room full of people. So again, it's great to gather together. And I think there's other people that would really thrive in that. And I'd rather have smaller conversations around a fire pit. We bought an old Young Life camp and turned it into a meeting place. And we just meet around fire pits there. And I love the conversations that we can have. And then the mischief part, I planted a vineyard. And I haven't had my second glass of wine because I didn't like the first one. But there's something really awesome about having a vineyard. I'm learning all about it. And then I have horses and those fuzzy cattle. They're called Scottish Highlands.
Judge Gaines has some.
I just love so just to kind of see where you are and not be defined or confined by what you're capable of, although you're very capable of pastoring a church, but just to say, do I feel more called to? What's that sense of resonance where there's an ambition and an opportunity? and where they cross, that's where I want to be.
Yeah.
And so if you don't know what to do, go with those 6 things,
Yeah.
or add 2 more from James, but
Yeah.
like, just go with those 6 things.
Will you say them again?
Hungry people, thirsty people, sick people, strange people, which is everybody, naked people, and people in jail.
Yeah.
And you can never tell if somebody's hungry, but you can always tell if they're naked.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
That's true. That's true.
So
And widows
we're
and
in San
orphans.
Quentin, and I teach writing I've been there, I think 8 years. So the current class is on writing, and you can have everyone from a Manson family member to a guy that just grew acres of weed and forgot to pay the taxes.
Wow.
So it's just been so fun to be there to learn from them. So when I get their writing that they send back to me, there's so much depth of thought. There's some men there that have taught me so much about Jesus, because that Manson guy, he's been in for 54 years.
Wow.
And his faith is something that he's known for now. Doesn't mean he didn't do wrong, and he will never get paroled out of there.
Yeah.
But that idea, you can be removed from society, but you can never be removed from the presence of God.
That's good.
And so I just like those reminders, the beautiful insights these guys have. Particularly, you give a guy a pencil and say, can you just start writing these things, and get the warden to let those be released? Be like, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. We're on with Bob Goff, my favorite author. 2 notable books are Love Does and Everybody Always, but there's been several more to come out since then that I'd encourage you to check out too. I have had the privilege and opportunity to listen to them or read them all. He has the School of Whimsies coming out here in Waco, Texas, May 16th. And I'm just so thankful for your life, Bob. Thank you. Keep living as an example of it not being boring to follow Jesus. It's fun.
Man, I'm just so grateful we're all in it together. Every family has a lawyer and a nutty uncle in it. So I'm signing up for both of those.
There you go.
But all together, we make one really well-adjusted person.
Yeah.
So I'm just glad all the listeners, you, all the people at church, the ones that are easy to get along with. But I'm reminded that if you want to know where you're at in your faith, see how you're dealing with the most difficult person you have to deal with today.
That's right.
Wow.
That's a good word.
Do you ever
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You had a question.
Do you ever get tired? I feel like you just wake up ready to love people, and it's like a personality thing. But is it personality, or is it the Holy Spirit in you?
Oh, I think it drives Sweet Maria nuts. She's like, dude, chill out. Like, get a puppy or something. Yeah, I just was born with a lot of energy. And I just am so committed to leaving it on the field.
That's awesome.
Like, someday we're all going to end up in a jar. But what I want to do is leave some beautiful memories behind. So that means I want to make moves.
Yeah, man.
I love it.
Bob, thank you so much for your time and your investment here. We're just grateful for you. So I appreciate you jumping on with us.
Thanks, you guys.
All right,
Thank
we'll see you later.
you.
Bye.
See ya.
Man, he does have a lot of energy, man.
Seriously.
For real.
It's so encouraging.
Man.
This feels like life goals. Y'all didn't ask a lot of questions.
Okay, well,
Sorry. I don't know if I've ever fanboyed, and it's like I want to have a conversation for a really long time, specifically about, you kind of said, hey, do you ever get tired? But I want to be like, no, but what about when you have been discouraged? Like, what does that look like?
Totally. Right. Yeah.
So we're going to have him back.
All I know is he's having the School of Whimsy in Waco. I feel like we should do like a swap where he comes here and we do Becoming Something Live in San Diego.
That would be amazing.
We should do it.
Or at his place in Canada.
Or we should also have him on live when he's here.
Hey, that'd be awesome.
That would be awesome.
Come on.
That'd be great. Him and Chip Gaines.
Yeah. And so you have not read a Bob Goff book?
I haven't.
Wow, we're bringing this
I
public.
know,
Holy smokes.
Are you like me in that I feel like we are similar, that's why I ask. Do you love stories of great faith?
I would say so.
Does that make sense? Like, have you ever read Crazy Love?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that whole book, and then
I read it a long time ago.
Well, at the end of the book, he just tells a bunch of short stories of people living with great faith. Like, that stirs my heart when somebody's like, "Hey, I just hold life loosely. I'm just going to love everyone I can in front of me. Like, let's go." I feel like he
did
does a
read
good
the
job.
intro, I think, to Love Does.
Oh my gosh.
All I remember is him being on a park bench at Harvard or something like that. That's all I got.
That's hilarious.
But I honestly don't read a ton.
Yeah, I don't either. So when I say read, I listen to him. I listen to a Bob Goff book almost every night.
I love that.
It's weird.
Okay, that
It's
makes
weird.
sense because I was encouraged by how much you knew about
It's
his
weird.
life.
Yeah, it's a weird thing.
I mean, and maybe it's because he's like just speaks less now. Like he said, he's pulled it back.
Totally.
Yeah.
But especially, I mean, man,
Which that
10
makes
years
sense.
ago, Love Does comes out, and it's like, boom.
Yeah.
Everybody had read it. Literally everyone had read it. So, and you're like 14. So
We called
Whatever.
it quarantine cold call, man. He was not having it.
That
Shut
kills
that
me
down.
that y'all told that story.
I love
you
it.
can't record a lawyer without consent.
Yeah. All right, guys. Hey, thanks for jumping in with us on that discussion. We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks for tuning in to Becoming Something, where we promise to keep the conversation honest and real for young adults in their 20s and 30s. Every moment we live is training for a future moment, and that's why we do this podcast, because we want you to be prepared for everything that life is going to throw at you. Our hope with this podcast is that it would help you become all that God desires you to be. To find out more, visit becomingsomething.com.